Hey there, I'm Sheriff Terry, and this is the closest thing I have to a cowboy hat. Welcome to another Sheriff Reacts video. I believe BlueJay is about to release a new video, and I thought we would get back into the flow of things with BlueJay by checking out this video, How to Survive the Wild West. If you're to the Wild West, my last video I just did covered food from the Wild West from Max Miller, so check that one out too. And this original video from BlueJay is going to be linked down below. Give it the view, like, subscribe to their channel. Thank you to all the patrons and YouTube channel members. You're getting extra benefits like merchandise and early access to videos. Thank you for your support. And here we go.
Do you ever throw hogtied civilians on the train tracks in Red Dead Redemption and find yourself thinking,
oh, yeah.
I love the Wild West?
They run them over.
Firstly, because Red Dead Redemption takes place over a decade after the Wild West, silly goose. And secondly, because life in the American frontier was far from the bank-robbing, gun-flourishing, root-tootin' wonderland we've all come to know and love in today's pop culture. But what if you just so...
Hey, I want to shout out, because this is right in line with this, friend of the channel, Cypher, over there at the Cynical Historian, who completed his PhD, and he was studying violence in the Wild West. And boy, he showed me and told me about some very enlightening things. It's probably the most murderous time in American history. Check out his channel, though.
So happened to be best friends with an 80-year-old theoretical physicist who got stranded in 1885 and needs you to take his EPA-violating time machine built out of a stupidly overhyped car to rescue him from your high school bully's great-grandfather.
Okay, we all agree though that was the worst of the Back to the Future movies. Like, it's not even close. 1 and 2 are absolutely classics, but 3, ugh.
Don't you worry, kiddo. Seeing as how this situation is all too likely, I decided to put together a little guide for all you McCree wannabes to show you exactly how to survive the Wild West.
Overwatch. Any McCree mains out there? People think I'm Toronto BlueJay.
Here we are, Alex. The Wild West. The area of the United States that's vaguely defined by historians as being somewhere... the stunning landscapes are...
It's true, though. So, like, honestly, it's everything from, like, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming. Oh, even Texas, I guess. It's basically, like, the western third of the, United States, you know, with the emphasis probably in the bottom, you know, southwest corner, but you know, but it's also very much, you got like Idaho, Wyoming and all that.
Vaguely defined by historians as being somewhere the stunning landscapes are crawling with rich resources. Massive herds of American bison roam from the Great Basin to the Appalachians, while the expansive flatlands find themselves home to enough corn, beans, and squash to bring a tear to
nearly annihilated all the buffalo.
The geography ranges from grassy plains so large you might just call them great, to mountains so rugged you could even say they're rocky, to deserts so arid they've earned the rank of being the second hottest.
By the way, you ever heard of these things? These are those stones. You see this stone here? They move without a human movement. They were seen as a great mystery, but you come to find out it has to do with it freezing and thawing of this desert, which like lightly moves them. But people had no idea because these things would move and they had no tracks or anything down at the bottom. I learned that, I think, from a video I watched with you guys.
This place on Earth. Second only to Markiplier's OnlyFans. And, of course, to accompany all these diverse ecosystems and resources are an equal number of diverse American Indian cultures to live off them. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. You're right, this is not how I pictured the Wild West at all. So do I just, like, give my resume to a chief, or...
This guy's not gonna make it. He's gonna die.
Quite yet, Alex. This piece of junk took us too far back. Just gotta calibrate this flux bullshitator. Okay, good to go. Hop in.
The flux capacitor.
That's more like it. Welcome to the Wild West. Despite its long-standing history, the archetypal Wild West period refers to only a small stretch of time between the end of the Civil War to the 1890 census.
So we got, you know, in a lot of ways, I mean, I think it's called 1865 Wild West. I would even argue that it goes to really the gold rush, like 1848, 1849, kind of picks there and it picks up there. And then, of course, the Civil War kind of messes with stuff there. But yeah, really got kicked off, you know, with the end of the Mexican-American War as well. That also ends, goes down and ends at 48, 49, basically giving the western third of the United States is going to be by the United States. This is all part of the Manifest Destiny era, where Americans felt that coast to coast, land and the people there should be civilized and be under the occupation of the United States. So yes, gold is what brought them out there, and then all those other prospects is what's going to get them all to stay.
Or the early 1900s, depending on which smart people institution you ask. But now we're standing on
industrialization spread out there.
American territory, baby, which was taken from Mexico and France.
Yep.
Who took it from Spain?
Yep.
Who partially took it from France?
Who
took it from the natives we just met, but still pretty new.
You just keep going backwards
taking a deep
and backwards.
breath of freedom. What happened to them?
That's seriously North America. I mean, I guess it's the history of everything, just civilization and then conquer and conquer and conquer till America.
You happened, Alex. Me, but I just got here. You sure did, and in record time too, thanks to your shiny new railroad system. A life-altering technological leap forward in rural transit, perfect for manifesting destinies and kickstarting
That's the famous picture.
What about all the bison? Well, Alex, surely we can't have all those 2,000-pound hunks of meat waltzing around on train tracks. Think of how dangerous that would be to our schedules. So those numbers were knocked down a couple million.
Oh, I forgot about it. Oh my gosh. So the bison and Native Americans very much lived in harmony for a long time. You know, they didn't over exploit them and also used everything they could about the bison. But yeah, once white colonizers went out there, I mean, the bison are easy to shoot. They just sit there and you shoot them and their pelts are worth a lot. And yeah, they're meaty. They got a lot of uses there, but those are the bones. It's really sad what's happened. Now bison are basically the protected endangered species for the most part. Wild ones pretty much don't exist. And they used to be, like I said here, 60 million in the 1800s. And then look, 300.
To open things up a bit, but only after we graciously borrowed their trails for railroad paths. Thanks, bison. What? 60 million?
Okay, they didn't all die though. Okay, was you getting the impression? Were you getting the impression that they were all dying because they're getting hit by trains? No, they were getting hunted. Although a lot of those bison, yeah, that was rough place. They didn't understand the railroads. What are they?
To avoid some train damage or delays? Well, that and to force Native Americans into submission turns out pretty easy to do when you decimate their primary source of food and a major sacred symbol for many tribes. For perspective, think the devastation that befalls America today when Starbucks stopped selling our current sacred symbol, the pumpkin spice latte, but multiply it by a couple thousand. Hey, Tahoma, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot, so I wanted to lighten things up a bit with a little joke that I came up with, seeing as how you people love those buffalo so much.
They do. They respect them.
What did the buffalo say to his son? Is it bye, son? No. He didn't say anything because he doesn't have a son. Because he's dead. I killed him. I killed all the bison, Tahoma. To the American settlers, the West symbolized independence and freedom from government, a proposition so tempting that people were
it couldn't have been just a straight up dad joke. It had to be a lot darker than a dad joke. Good job, BlueJay.
Uproot their lives and travel hundreds of miles over land made traversable by state-sponsored railroads to homesteads made possible by federal legislation on land made open by government ammunition.
This was the era when it was easier than probably any time in human history here to be able to get land. It was cheap. It was going to be protected by the government. And yeah, you could do that. This was the time if you wanted to expand and get some land. I mean, this was that time because, you know, once these lands were, you know, taken by whatever means it was, depending on what you're talking about, that wanted to be settled immediately, right? There's so much economic value, whether, again, you're looking on the upper right here with the amount of grazing. Remember the plains. The Great Plains is probably the most fertile place there is in the world right now when it comes to agriculture. But then, of course, you're going to get mining, get around the Rocky Mountains and the Sierra Nevadas and all that stuff, a lot of economic stuff. But again, it was cheap and you had the government support and you had federal and legal protections of that land.
You smell that, Ezekiel? That's freedom right there. No big brother here. USA. Okay, this sucks.
Hear the USA in the back. Him breathing there gave me another thing to be able to talk about. This was the era where tuberculosis was a rampant killer in the United States and around the world, of course. And one of the things that doctors would actually prescribe to people is to actually move to these more desert climates where the dry air was better for their tuberculosis.
Please take me back to my PlayStation. Oh, great. You just saved me 15 minutes. Hey, get! It's Shoot, he just took our catalytic converter. I thought this was the Wild West, not North Philly.
We had that stolen in our family.
We can get past the 8-minute mark and Daddy needs his mid-roll, so lessons back on, Alex. Seeing as how you're here to stay, we're gonna need to hook you up with a career. Now, there were a ton of options, and with how expansive and diverse the various regions are, you really shouldn't generalize life in the Wild West.
A lot of different climates, though.
Anyway, let's heavy pick between a cowboy, miner, or prostitute. Oh, cowboy. Classic choice, Alex. Let me just cue up the VHS trailer for Cowboys here.
And yes, you'll notice, like, from this photo here, there were, in fact, a lot of black cowboys. A lot of them, it was a pretty good prospect for, like, a freed slave, right? This is after the Civil War. Yeah, there were a lot of them. And it's kind of been an undertold story, is kind of the neat culture of a lot of those black cowboys. You would not have wanted to be a miner. Oh, gosh, no. Oh, gosh, no. I mean, if you're just working in the mines, whatever, if you're going to go and be like a prospector where you're going to be able to own the mines, a little bit different. But watch the last video I was talking about with miners during the Wild West, and you'll know how actually how few people really made a lot of money on that.
Alex, let me just cue up the VHS trailer for Cowboys here. At 13 minutes past the 13th hour on the 13th day of the 13th month, the McCormick County rabbit puncher James H. Wallace strode into the small town of Armadillo Baldy looking for rabbits. As he turned the corner of Baba Skanky Shank and Dank Baba Shop, he spotted little Cindy Klein with her beloved bunny, Sir Hopsalot, enjoying a scoop of radish ice cream, an Armadillo Baldeep staple. Wallace grabbed poor Cindy's bouncy rodent and hoisted him in the dusty air, fist clenched in zealous anticipation to spread his rabbit-punching vendetta to Busball County. It was then that the heretofore unnoticed cowboy, Tombstone Filbert Cheesesteak, the sandwich-hating gunslinger, stepped forward from the shadow of the Balloon Saloon to challenge the outsider to a duel. Legendary on neither side of the Mississippi, Filbert Cheesesteak stood in the dirt road across from his mammal-fisting adversary, hand hovering over his
what's gonna happen?
The bell rang and Wallace was shot down, losing on the draw after remembering he didn't own a firearm. Seeing the rabbit punchers,
you did not want to live back then. Okay, I don't care if you're mining or you're in farmland or doing farming or whatever, some business, robberies, thefts, murders, all that stuff, rampant, absolutely rampant in the Wild West. You needed to have one. Okay, you got Colt, who made a fortune off of it at this time, where they're ready to go. I've asked this question in previous videos, but if you haven't seen it, what do you think about this? You just saw a duel there, right? Do you think duels should be legal? Let me know down below.
Slowly bleed out on the street.
And if so, who would you want to see actually duel? Is it Drake and Kendrick? You make a lot of money. That's like pay-per-view stuff.
The cowboy approached him and, in a show of mercy, proceeded to stab him 37 times in the knee until he died from old age 2 minutes later. Cowboy Filbert Cheesesteak, the bunny defender, then rode off into the sunset, forever to be remembered for his heroic defense of Cindy Klein's honor by shooting and stabbing an unarmed foreigner. Okay. Well, Alex, what'd you think? That's awesome! I'd love to be a heroic
typical cowboy behavior.
Pew, 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 pew. What? Oh no, that's just a teaser for a Western film I'm making. That's not what a cowboy is. What you just witnessed is the modern interpretation of an Old West cowboy, made popular by Hollywood.
Okay, anyone else just love Old West movies? Oh my gosh. The spaghetti westerns, and then you get some of the modern ones are great too. So good. Oh my gosh. I want to go watch. I need to go binge them.
And dime novels. A valiant and mysterious gunslinging nomad who traveled from town to
town.
By
the way, fun fact. You see this? I found out something. So it says Buffalo Bill. That's a character. Wild Bill. I'm related to him. Found that in my ancestry.
A valiant and mysterious gunslinging nomad who traveled from town to town to bring justice, often while fabulously dressed. But in reality, all they need to understand what a cowboy does is the name itself. You heard cows.
Among Us.
Well, this sucks. Don't speak too soon. This is probably the most chill part of your entire workday, which is about 15 to 20 hours, by the way. Your day of cattle driving, horse wiping, and repair providing was lonely and dull, which might sound like a dream at first to you introverts, I know my audience, until you take into account the pay of $25 to $40 a month, exhausting manual labor, and feeling almost as disgusted with yourself as I hope KFC's head chef feels.
Here's a question for you guys, okay? This is the time we got back out in the East, we got these industrial cities, and we have that horrible type of factory labor. What would you rather been, though? Okay, would you rather be one of those factory laborers back in like New York or something like that? or one of these homesteaders out in the West doing whatever. Which lifestyle, the urban industrial life or the Wild West life? Let me know down below too.
You'll get 6 hours of sleep at most, and unlike your working life, you won't be lonely in your bedroll. Your horse is your best friend until one wrong move turns you into its best training wheel. And of course, there's the cowboy's worst nightmare, the stampede. Thousands of pounds of moo meat charging at top speed, crushing everything in their path. And all it took was one small spook to set one off. Craig to hit the Pentagon. While overall...
Wait, what did you say?
Craig to hit the Pentagon. While overall pretty mundane, there were a handful of exciting aspects of the cowboy's career. For example, you've probably been sitting there thinking, but they play with cool swingy ropes. That's right, sport. They did in fact use lassos to wrangle cattle. However, it's often left out why
it's so hard to be an accurate lasso
I like this
person.
game. So what now? You busting my balls, Jesse? Wait, one of the biggest events in a cowboy's career was the long drive, where they drove large herds of cattle to railroad stations to be sold off. Well, this is finally starting to sound like some cool cowpuncher stuff. A cowpuncher is another name for cowboy. Riding on horseback for thousands of miles is not as easy as it seems, something horse jockeys, Aiden Ross, or others used to riding could attest to. And sure, it might not be an adventure as fantastical as Clint Eastwood's, riding off with a beautiful woman of questionable age who you wooed from a small town after 2 conversations with. We've still got hundreds of open miles to roam with beautiful young Bessie here. Moo.
Let's just say
she is sweet. She sure is. Now load her up, Alex. Where are we taking her to? I think the better question is, what are we making her into? Burgers, a cheeseburger, steaks. Alex. What? Beautiful Bessie is too precious to make it to a burger. You're right.
You don't want to see where your food comes from.
I don't want to be a cowboy. All right then. What's next? I guess minor. Brilliant choice. No, you're later. Trailing off the tail end of the California Gold Rush, mining was a tantalizing proposition for men desperate to make their fortune. It was such a popular draw that many U.S. states were initially settled by prospectors and miners hoping to strike gold or silver. Howdy, partner. I heard there was gold in these parts.
Sutter's Mill, 1848.
What's with the pickaxe? Why to mine my fortune, of course. All right, man. If that's what you're into, go on in. Well, thank you kindly, partner. Little dampen here.
Oh,
well, if you manage to strike it rich,
if you don't know what that reality, if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to repeat it. But don't look it up.
Was that you were far more likely to find yourself working for poor wages and terrifying conditions. Keep in mind, these were the times where industrial safety was more of a punchline than a guideline. Yep. So you had a lot to worry about being an Old West miner.
No worker
such
protections.
As the 3 E's: explosions, electrocutions, and asphyxiations. Ugh. Asphyxiation starts with an A. Some mines would utilize a long series of ladders to descend hundreds of feet into the earth, which meant if you were too tired at the end of the day, you might not reach the top successfully. So hopefully you haven't been spending 12 hours punching rocks or something.
Now, mining was so difficult and so crappy that as these decades went on, it became less and less popular for Americans and will be used by more and more immigrants over time. Specifically, the Irish and the Chinese would come in because they would actually do it for the wages that whoever was the mine owner would do it for. And again, it was incredibly dangerous. So you'd say there also, this is when dynamite's going to be like invented, basically used for this purpose of trying to clear out areas. So but then even without that, you had the cave-ins and all of the horrible environmental conditions. Plus, you're in the middle of the middle of nowhere, and getting there sucked, and the living conditions sucked. It all sucked.
Exposure was also a problem, and miners would often inhale large amounts of it on the job, which would tickle their lungs a little bit. And by tickle, I mean silicosis, which became tuberculosis, which they died from at 10 times the national average. You'd also be exposed to carbon monoxide, poor ventilation, dirty drinking water, mercury poisoning, lead poisoning, arsenic poisoning, alcohol poisoning. Throw a dart at the periodic table and it's probably in your blood. Have to go? There's plenty of room. Need to count to 10? Why don't you use your fingers? Just kidding. In a lot of ways, frontier mining was like a casino. You go in hoping to strike it rich, but inside you find flashing lights, bodily fluids, and in the end, the house always wins. Yeah, okay, never mind. I'll do anything but mining. All right, then. What's your next pick? Now, hold on. The world's oldest profession is a common trope in Western films.
There was a good quote in the Max Miller, forget where it came from, the Max Miller video that said, the people that made the money, in the Wild West were not the miners, but the people that supplied the miners, because stuff was so expensive and prices were incredibly inflated to get the tools, food. I mean, for mining operations, you basically have to have a whole town of services for those people. Those are the people that made the money during the gold rush. the majority of them. Only a handful of people really are going to make a lot from the actual gold, and you had to get really lucky to be able to strike that. It was the people that supported the mining operations, right? Business owners. And then, of course, wherever men go, there will always be another economic opportunity, which looks like BlueJay is going to talk about right now.
But their prevalence and impact tends to be a bit overstated. For example, the popular idea that prostitutes were the first people to arrive and develop the West is more folklore than fact. In reality, they often waited until a community was more developed before setting up shop, if you will. Most women in the West pursued a variety of enterprises to make money. But don't you worry, Alex, hookers certainly did exist. And while it wasn't most women's profession, less competition means more clientele. But why choose the scandalous life? Well, maybe you're a widow in need of cash, or a savvy entrepreneur looking to score big after a crypto ranch didn't pan out. Pimp. But either way, you came to the Wild West for the same reason as everyone else. Opportunity and glory. Holes. For work, you've got quite a few options. You could...
I don't want to get too into the nitty-gritty details, but do you understand how gross people were back then and living in those places? And then that this activity was part of that, of really gross people, filthy, the other venereal problems.
Could be a residence prostitute where, on the upside, you get to work from home, but on the downside, you get to work from home. Where your children live. If permanent psychological trauma isn't your parenting style, you could always join a brothel. These establishments were as traditional as it gets. Just an empty room and a bunch of bedrooms to learn about the birds and the bees. Uh-oh, here comes the boss lady with her Home Depot paint card. Don't mind her, she's just checking your skin color. Too much melanin puts you in the special room. Maybe you'd rather be a saloon girl, who a lot of the time were not literal prostitutes, but rather women who would charm and revitalize the clientele of a saloon. But this was still considered pretty taboo. Merely having a woman in a saloon at all was already unheard of back east, where they treasured their masculinity so much that they couldn't have anyone around who liked men.
Want the women in the bar too.
Often called painted ladies, as the harlots had the audacity to wear makeup, saloon girls were often paid in alcohol sales, so you'll need to keep them binge drinking for as long as possible. You gotta charm them, talk them up a bit, form a one-sided emotional relationship. Trust me, I'm a YouTuber. While your clients are catching feelings, you'll be catching diseases like their Pokemon. Look, you've even got a few legendaries. Luckily, it's something a little visit from the Mercury Fairy can't fix. Getting stressed? Not to worry.
Yeah, that's going to help. That's going to help. Ask the first emperor of China how taking treatments from Mercury went for him.
The art of relaxation to help them deal with the woes of the trade. She does look calm. Yeah, opiates will do that. What, they just abused painkillers? Come now, that wasn't their only method. There's also codeine, chloroform, laudanum, tonics, and of course, good old-fashioned alcohol.
I was going to say, this isn't like ibuprofen and Tylenol, what they did with pain. It was drugs. Straight up
But
drugs.
Most importantly, you got to ensure your social class in the red light community is well received. You don't want to be like Marianne over there, a widowed mother taking all the business she can get to support her kids. Disgusting. You want to be like Ash over here, who worked her way up the social ladder to eventually take on better ventures. Like owning prostitutes. Freedom is the ultimate goal of all red light women, after all, and all it takes is a little elbow grease, business savvy, and not being Chinese. Assuming you secure a job, you now gotta find a place to live. Your options, of course, will depend on the region, and if you're far out in the frontier, you'll need to get your hands dirty and build your own house. If you got trees around, you can build yourself a log cabin. It's pretty simple, really. All you need to do is gather up several tons of stone for a foundation, chop down dozens of trees by hand, and lift 500-pound logs into place all by your lonesome.
You're better
but
off
in the
buying
end,
all
you'll
that
have a roughly
stuff
10 by 20 foot cabin, which is plenty of room for you
and
your wife. And your 10 kids. Recycling stuff
one
from
house,
your journey out west
or
will
one room
also
home.
save you a lot of time. Empty barrel?
Dude, Oregon
That's a
Trail,
rocking chair.
you got
Storage
dysentery.
trunk? How about a dresser? Dead kid? You mean fertilizer. All in all, your log cabin...
I was about to talk about something depressing, but he made it even worse. I was going to say how common it was to lose your children in childbirth. Probably going to lose a quarter of them before they even reach their infancy, or their adolescence, I should say, before they're toddlers, actually. But yeah, I don't know about the using them as fertilizer thing. I'm going to need another Wild West historian. Cypher, cynical historian, can you help me out there? You're a Wild West expert.
It'll be cramped, cold, and pretty much just block the wind a little. But hey, if the Unabomber can live in one, so can you. But out on the plains, you don't have any trees. Just a bunch of grass, really. So the settlers had to coordinate an intricate supply chain effort to source materials, not
railroads
just use the grass. Introducing the sod house, which is one letter off from sad. Much like your
Hobbit
first
hole.
time playing Minecraft, a sod house had a pretty creative design.
Hobbit hole.
Your floors were made out of dirt. Now for your walls, let's use some dirt. As for your ceiling, better go with the classic, dirt. You can practically already see the smile on the wife's face when she sees this. Here we are, dear, our new home. This? What is this? A sod house made out of high-quality dirt imported all the way from the backyard. This is disgusting. Why on earth would you drag our family out here to live like pigs? This is what you wanted. You always said you wished we were dirtier in bed, despite the near total life.
That's not what he meant by that. Hey, this is a common feature, though, in a lot of places that don't have trees. What if you have great rivers that are very fertile, but not a lot of trees? Let me direct you towards ancient Mesopotamia. They had a lot of that, but what they did have they didn't have necessarily a lot of trees, but what they did have was extensive things like clay, and they would fire those bricks, then make bricks, and then build out of that. They did that in ancient India too, in like the Harappa Mohenjo-daro region. But yeah, it could be there. But one thing about having the grassy kind of thing there, living in a hole is it would be good for temperature. If you're living in a place that's hot, it'd be a lot cooler. I'm trying to be very positive.
You will get some visitors from time to time. As one settler wrote, every afternoon the rattlesnakes would come out of their hidden dens in the walls and roof and sun themselves on the western windowsill. Have fun, Cinderella. As you can imagine, even the best of sod houses would leak when it rained, but at least that means you'll have a fun little indoor water park. So long as the roof doesn't decide to join in. Your journey out west was quite the environment change, from the big city to the back rooms. And with all this space, the kids had plenty to do. Running in a circle, running in a square, developing prairie madness, the life. Despite the lackluster conditions,
no cell phones,
did do their best to introduce some comfort to the home. For example, as a substitute for wallpaper, some families just plastered their walls with newspapers to help keep out drafts.
Yeah.
So now you can add reading the wall to your list of fun home activities. But at this point, we're pretty much just one straitjacket away from an insane asylum. While the Wild West was
first off, if you're a kid at that time, first off, you are lucky to be surviving. And second off, you're probably working as soon as you could pick something up. All right, what do we got here? No, with small populations, any murder makes the murder rate high, so take this with a grain of pepper.
Violent place with high murder rates, it wasn't as if you had to dodge bullets every day like Hollywood would make you believe.
It's per capita.
Unless you're a native. In fact, many Wild West towns would have you turn in any guns you had upon entry, so don't fret too much about bandits, no need to worry over gunslingers. In fact, the only gun you really need to be worried about is your own, because life in the Wild West was boring as shit. There were still a few hobbies you could pursue, like alcoholism. Drinking was very popular in the Wild West.
High alcohol
so much so that doctors
too.
poured almost as much liquor as barkeeps, which was fantastic for people like priests who couldn't be seen entering the latter. And luckily for you, the Wild West was home to many creative individuals who came up with some rather interesting concoctions.
Oh gosh,
Take Nicholas Ambrose, for instance, who was drinking liquor when he thought to himself,
tastes bad.
Yeah, not enough spiders. Introducing tarantula juice, a cocktail famous for having a strong bite and causing muscle spasms that felt like having dozens of baby tarantulas crawling on your skin. Go on, take a sip, Alex.
Is that what meth's supposed to feel like?
Muscle spasms, huh? Sounds like something a sugar rush would do. No, it sounds like something a neurotoxin would do. And that's because this fun little potion was made up of wood grain alcohol, rosin, tobacco juice, sulfuric acid, hydrogen cyanide, and everyone's favorite
It's like take your pick of what is going to kill you there. Somehow it balances each other out and takes out the deadliness, or what?
Rat poison, strychnine, which is making its third appearance. Cyanide, and everyone's favorite rat poison, strychnine, which is making its third appearance on this channel. With all those flavors, tarantula juice was said to produce effects similar to methamphetamine. Now, if you are in lockjaw, you could always go for a classic drink, but be careful. Ordering liquor out here was kind of like playing Minesweeper. Uh-oh, looks like someone hit a mine. Don't worry, you're not gonna explode. I think.
We have diarrhea.
You did drink gunpowder. I ordered whiskey. That you did. However, many Wild West saloons would cut their whiskey with things like gunpowder, cayenne, or even ammonia to save on liquor costs.
I was going to say, usually when they mean cutting something, they're just like, you literally water it down. You can't spare gunpowder. Was it cayenne?
Like gunpowder, cayenne, or even ammonia to save on liquor costs. Here you go. Hey Keith, this whiskey smell funny to you? Oh yeah, keep it quiet, but I've been cutting the whiskey with this cheap almond juice.
You are literally going to explode your rectum. You got the cayenne pepper and the gunpowder. You got spicy flammability there. Goodbye, anus.
Save money. Almond juice. Keep it quiet, but I've been cutting the whiskey with this cheap almond juice to save money. Almond juice. This is ammonia. Like to unclog a sink. You can't be serving this to customers. My cells hurt. Let me see that.
My cells? That's what he
Oh,
said?
I thought it said almond juice. How could you possibly think that? Are you dyslexic? Severely. What? Keith, you know our policy.
Report disabilities.
Sir,
for
I still haven't seen
accommodation.
any dangerous accordions. Gee, Alex, you're
Accordions.
not looking too good. Well, fortunately, we'll be able to fix you up at our next stop, the local medicine show. Combining healthcare and showbiz,
gosh.
these exhibitions featured a
Straight
traveling
up
salesman
meth.
who would use entertainment to draw a crowd and peddle whatever poppycock miracle medicines they had on hand. This entertainment can
Cocaine.
include everything from storytelling to magic shows to freak shows, which I covered already in this little guy. These acts would continue until the salesmen sold off all their patent medicine, which weren't actually patented, but the word sounded cool, so they used it anyway.
Miracle
to help prove the
elixir.
effectiveness of their tonics, they would often insert paid actors into the audience, who they could then pretend to pick out at random to miraculously cure of all their ailments. Gather round, folks, and feast
It
your
helped
eyes,
me.
for I've got tonics, treatments, and dyes. As for your ailments, do not fret nor cry, for I have arrived, Mr. Dr. Delight. What in tarnation did he say? Oh, Kansas. Me have medicine. Oh, he got them cures. Wow, them be some fancy tonics. I got that chlamydia. Do they work, though? I love drinking fluids. Now, to demonstrate the healing abilities of
dub it
my
down.
patent medicine, I shall request
Sorry, Kansas.
the
Sorry, Mr.
assistance
Beep.
of an audience member. Me? Yes, you, sir. Come on up and tell us what ails you. I've got really bad cough. Wow, sounds genuine. No worries, stranger. I've got this cure for you. My gluten-free snake oil mercury miracle shall wash away all coughs, pains, and kinks whilst invigorating the body.
And your kidneys.
Oh my gosh, my cough is gone. As you can see, he is now cured. My vision, Jesus, I can see for miles. Yes, another perk.
Except the opposite.
Your vision shall be sharpened. Holy, I understand differential calculus.
You could go a little far, a little too far now.
Mind, and I'm fluent in Italian. Mamma mia, spaghetti and meatball. All right, that's enough now, stranger. Oh my God, my penis so big. Jeez, they fell for that. Crazy, right? Getting their healthcare advice through performative entertainment? That's ridiculous. The people of the past were clearly way stupider than we are today. However, those weren't the only shows.
What'd that say?
The past were clearly way
How to
stupider.
stop your period for an emergency. Oh my gosh. Don't get any medical advice from TikTok, please.
Than we
Hope
are
you knew
today.
that already.
However, those weren't the only shows in town. You could also go see a minstrel show, a form of theater consisting of various skits and acts, which were also quite inclusive. Look, not only did they have white people, but also black people. Played by white people. Don't worry,
blackface.
Alex. These shows eventually died out, but some say their legacy lives on in the form of Canadian prime ministers. You could also go
Trudeau.
to a rodeo and watch men simulate a battle against animals on the frontier by mildly annoying them. Or you could go explore it yourself. Just look out for everything. Want more thrills? How about you go see a dead body? Or maybe watch them get made. Feeling vice-like? Why don't you try your hand at gambling? Uh-oh, looks like we got a sore loser. Where's the sheriff when you need him? Oh, there he is. All in all, the hobbies weren't numerous, but at the end of the day, you're just looking for something to dull the pain before you get back to work the next day. Now let's talk about the hygiene. Oh, hey, is that your scientist friend? Yes, Doc, please get me out of here. I can't take this. I don't want to be a hooker. I just want to play my PlayStation. Please fix the time machine. I can't live in a dirt house. I don't want to like spider. Calm down, Alex. I would, but transporting back in time has taken a toll on my mental fortitude. My fundamental cognizance of arithmetic and the phenomena of physical interactivity has diminished. English, Doc. I don't understand math anymore, Alex. Great Scott, Alex, I've remembered how to time travel. Yes, let's leave. Sure thing. We just need a few 100 grams of zinc. Alex, my boy, tell me, do you know how to mine?
Unfortunately.
Here you go, buddy. The Wild West. Boring and dirty, but gave us Val Kilmer's best performance. 5 out of 10
Tombstone's
stars.
good. Final thoughts. All right, as usual, BlueJay puts out another banger. Hilarious, informative. I love it. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. I hope you learned some stuff from the video and hope you learned some stuff from me. We'll see y'all next time.